Welcome to another video of Pixel Programmers. Today we'll be building a cat-to-human age calculator with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I've added some basic HTML in the header. Let's begin by adding our containers. Our row container will serve as a container for our button and input elements. We will add an input and a button element to our row container. The input needs to have a type of number, so users can only insert numbers. Set the min attribute of our input to 0, so users cannot insert a number below 0. Also add a max attribute of 30, so users cannot insert a number greater than 30. We will also add the onClick attribute to trigger the function for our calculation later on. I've already added some basic CSS. First, I added the colors using the root, which will be useful when we want to change colors later, so we don't have to change it on different areas. Then I added our background by using a linear gradient in 135 degrees with 2 colors. Let's begin by targeting our cat age calculator by ID. The box shadow property gives a nice shadow to our container, while it's not overwhelming. Check out the MDN docs about the border shadow property to learn more about it. The link is in the description. Secondly, we target the H2 of our div. We're setting a margin at the bottom to give it a little space to breathe. Give it a text align to the center. Next, target the row class. Align it to the center and give it a display of flex. The background will be light grey to give it more visibility. We'll target the input element. Delete the border and outline because it's quite distracting. We'll remove the background by setting it to transparent. Set the font size a little bigger so you can see the text properly. Target the button and remove the border, but give it a border radius of 30 pixels. And again, use the earlier setup colors in the root for the background. Give the text a color of white so you can see it on the button. Add the transition property. We'll use this later to make the transition inside, and color smoother, so it doesn't jump directly from size to size or color to color. Target the button when hovering, and give it a transform property of scale, so it increases in size when you hover over it. Target the paragraph element, which we will later add to display our calculation. As you can see, the input element is way too small, and we cannot see the placeholder properly. Fix this by setting the flex property in the input element to 1. The flex property will make the item grow, but it will still fit next to the button. Let's start with adding some interactivity. Start with adding a variable called button, which value refers to the button in our document. Target the button by its ID using getElementById. Do the same for our input, output, and container. Next, create a function called calculate, which we added earlier to our button by using the onClick attribute. When the button is clicked, the function will run. First, we need to check if there is a previous calculation, so we don't have multiple calculations at the same time. We will give our variable a value of the paragraph in our container. With the query selector, you can target elements from the document by using the Elements tag. The if statement checks if there is a previous calculation. If so, it will delete our previous calculation by using the remove method. Add another if statement, which will check if the value of input is greater than 28. If so, our button's background will turn red. Add a set timeout method, which will turn our button back to grey after a certain time. The timeout will be 500 milliseconds. Then, we will reset the input's value to nothing. Otherwise, the number will remain in the input. Change the placeholder from the input to "Your cat isn't that old." Set another timeout of 700 milliseconds. Which will set the placeholder back to what it was. Add another if statement, but this time with else if, which checks if the input's value is empty or 0. In the body, set the button to red. And later back to grey with using a set timeout method of 500 milliseconds. Also, don't forget to reset the input's value. Another else if statement, to check if the input's value is equal to 1. Start by creating a variable, using let. In its value, we'll create a paragraph element in our document, using the createElement method. Set the text of our calculated age to "Your cat is 15 years old," and don't forget to make 15 bold. We achieve this by using the inner HTML method. Add the paragraph to our container by using append child. Again, clear the input's value. As you see, it works if we put the number 1 in our input. Here, we will add the last else if statement by checking if the input's value is greater as 1. If so, declare a variable called age using let. Give its value the input's value. Declare another variable called early years, which are the first 2 years of a cat, which count as 24 years. Declare later years using let, which are the years after the first 2 years of a cat. Reassign the later years variable, which is now its value times 4, by using the multiplication assignment operator. Also reassign age. That will now be the later years plus early years variable. Declare calculated age. And give its values in a new paragraph element using the createElement method. Set the text of the calculated age paragraph element by using template literals and the inner HTML method. This will make it easy to add our age variable to the string of the text. Add the calculated age paragraph to our container using the appNChild method. Also, reset the input's value again. Quickly notice how the colors don't load properly. Fix this by adding the hashtag character to the strings of the background colors, like I do. The last thing we need to do is add the image. The image file is in the description. Add the image element to your HTML and set its class to header image. Target the header image in the CSS and set its width to 100 pixels. Position to absolute. And position it with -75 pixels on the top and 50% on the left. Give it a transform property of translate X with -50%. The translate function realigns it on the x-axis. With that, our project is finished. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. Feel free to like the video and subscribe to my channel.